She walked in like any other shopper, but what happened next left the boutique staff and their IC manager reeling. When the truth about her identity was revealed, the fallout wasn't just shocking, it was unforgettable. The morning sun gleamed over Beverly Hills, its golden rays reflecting off the pristine glass windows of the most exclusive boutique on Rodeo Drive. The store stood like a jewel, its facade a masterpiece of modern design. With polished marble steps and sleek gold accents, the boutique whispered a single word to anyone who passed by: luxury. Inside, the air was cool, scented faintly with a custom blend of vanilla and sandalwood. The store's layout was immaculate. Designer handbags were displayed like museum pieces under glass domes, while racks of couture dresses stood like soldiers in perfect alignment. The boutique wasn't for everyone. The unspoken rule was clear. If you had to ask about the price, you didn't belong here. Helena Simmons, the boutique manager, surveyed her domain with a critical eye. She was tall, with an angular face and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. Her sleek bob haircut framed her face perfectly, not a strand out of place. Dressed in a tailored black pantsuit and impossibly high heels, Helena exuded authority. "Is that smudge still on the glass display?" she barked, pointing to the jewelry section. A young employee, Clara, rushed over with a cloth. "I'm sorry, Miss Simmons. I'll fix it right away." Helena nodded curtly, turning her attention to the front door. She hated distractions. The boutique wasn't just a store, it was a sanctuary of exclusivity. "Remember, Clara," Helena said, her tone sharp, "this isn't just about selling things. We sell an image, a lifestyle. Anyone can buy clothes. What we sell is exclusivity, and exclusivity isn't just about price. It's about who belongs here." Clara nodded, her cheeks flushing pink. She didn't dare respond. The day had started well. A regular customer, a socialite named Meredith, had come in to browse the latest handbags. She was the type of client Helena adored. Wealthy, glamorous, and always willing to spend thousands without blinking. "Helena, darling, is this bag a new release?" Meredith asked, holding up a pale blue crocodile leather handbag. "Yes, Mrs. Chase," Helena replied with a smile. "That's a limited edition. Only 5 were made, and we're the only store in the country to have one." Meredith beamed. "I'll take it." Helena nodded in satisfaction. This was the kind of clientele that kept the boutique thriving. The boutique had been relatively quiet after Meredith left, allowing Helena to catch up on paperwork. She was reviewing inventory when the front door opened. The soft chime of the bell drew Helena's attention. She glanced up, and her sharp eyes narrowed slightly. A woman had entered, her movements calm and composed. The woman wore a tailored navy blazer over a crisp white blouse. Her pearl earrings caught the light, simple yet elegant. Her hair was neatly styled, and she carried herself with an air of quiet confidence. But something about her seemed out of place. Helena frowned. The woman didn't fit the usual profile of their clients. There was no oversized designer bag, no ostentatious jewelry, no air of entitlement. She looked too ordinary. Helena's heels clicked against the marble floor as she approached. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, her tone polite but firm. "I'm afraid we have a private appointment scheduled. The store is closed to the public right now." The woman turned to face Helena fully, a soft smile on her lips. Her voice was calm and measured. "I just wanted to look around. I won't take up much of your time." Helena's lips thinned. "I'm sorry, but we're not accepting walk-ins today." For a moment, the woman's gaze held Helena's. There was no anger, no irritation, just quiet resolve. "Of course," she said finally. "Thank you." She turned and walked out without another word. As the door closed behind the woman, Helena exhaled, brushing off the encounter. She told herself she had done the right thing. The boutique wasn't for everyone after all, but as she returned to her desk, a strange unease settled over her. The woman's calm demeanor, her quiet confidence, it had felt different, not like someone who had wandered in by mistake. Helena shook her head, dismissing the thought. She had a boutique to run, and there was no room for second guessing. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that the woman had left something behind, not a physical item, but a presence, a question lingering in the air. Who was she? The boutique hummed with quiet activity. Clara polished glass displays with focused precision, and a couple of other staff members adjusted garments on mannequins. Helena watched them from her usual spot near the counter, her eyes flitting between the employees and the entrance. Despite the boutique's exclusivity, Helena knew that every detail had to be flawless. A single misstep could tarnish their reputation. She checked her watch. The afternoon rush was due soon, and she wanted everything perfect. Suddenly, the front door opened with a soft chime. Helena glanced up and froze. It was the woman from earlier. This time, her presence seemed even more striking. The woman walked with an air of purpose, her shoulders back, her head held high. Her tailored navy blazer was buttoned neatly over her white blouse, and her pearl earrings gleamed faintly in the boutique's soft lighting. For a moment, the store seemed to hold its breath. Helena stepped forward, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. "Excuse me, ma'am," she said, her tone crisp. "I believe I mentioned earlier that we're only open for private appointments today." The woman turned to face her, her soft smile unchanged. "I remember," she said, her voice calm and composed, "but I wanted to stop by again. I promise I won't disrupt anything." Helena hesitated. There was something about the woman's demeanor that made her pause. She wasn't defensive or pushy, as some people might have been. Instead, she seemed assured, as if she had every right to be there. Still, Helena's instincts kicked in. "I'm sorry, but I have to insist. This is a private establishment, and we're quite particular about our clientele." The woman raised an eyebrow slightly, her expression unreadable. "Particular?" she repeated, her tone mild. "Yes," Helena said firmly. "We cater to a very specific group of clients." The woman studied her for a moment, then nodded. "I understand," she said simply. "Thank you for your time." She turned and walked toward the door. Clara, who had been rearranging scarves nearby, watched the exchange with wide eyes. As the woman left, she leaned toward another sales associate, whispering, "Did she look familiar to you?" The other associate, a young man named Evan, frowned. "A little, yeah, but I can't place her." Clara bit her lip. I think that might have been Kamala Harris." Evan's eyes widened. "The vice president?" "No," Clara said, lowering her voice further. "She's not the vice president anymore, remember? She lost the election, but it looked like her, didn't it?" Evan glanced toward the door where the woman had just exited. "You might be right," he murmured. The murmurs reached Helena, who frowned in irritation. "Clara, Evan, back to work," she snapped. Clara flushed and quickly turned back to the display. Evan followed suit, though he cast another glance at the door. Helena shook her head. The idea was ridiculous. Why would someone like Kamala Harris walk into their boutique? And even if it was her, so what? The rules applied to everyone. She pushed the thought aside and returned to her desk, determined not to let the strange encounter distract her further. By the end of the day, however, the whispers among the staff had grown. Clara couldn't stop thinking about the woman's calm demeanor, her confident air. She brought it up again as she and Evan locked up for the night. "I'm telling you, it had to be her," Clara insisted. "She even had the pearls." Evan shrugged. "Maybe, but if it was, why didn't she say anything?" Clara hesitated. Maybe she didn't want to make a scene, or maybe... Evan raised an eyebrow. "Maybe what?" Clara lowered her voice. "Maybe she was testing us." Helena sat in her office, going over the day's receipts. The boutique had done well, as usual, but her thoughts kept drifting back to the woman. Her calm voice, the way she had looked Helena directly in the eye, and the way she had left without argument, as if she knew something Helena didn't. Helena frowned and shook her head. It didn't matter. Whoever the woman was, she didn't belong in the boutique. That much was clear, but as Helena prepared to leave for the night, she couldn't shake the feeling that the day's events weren't over. Something was coming. She could feel it. The next morning, the boutique buzzed with its usual rhythm of precision and perfection. Helena arrived early, as always, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she made her rounds. Every display had to be flawless. Every detail had to exude luxury, but beneath the surface, a quiet tension lingered among the staff. The encounter from the day before had left its mark. "Did you see this?" Clara whispered, her phone hidden behind a scarf rack. Evan leaned closer, frowning. "What is it?" Clara turned the screen toward him. A blurry photo of Kamala Harris, wearing the same blazer, blouse, and pearls as the woman from the boutique, filled the screen. "Someone posted it on Twitter," Clara said. "They said she was spotted walking around Beverly Hills yesterday." Evan's eyes widened. "So it was her?" Clara nodded, her voice dropping to a near whisper. "I think so. And if she came here, Helena—" "Helena what?" A sharp voice cut in. Clara jumped, nearly dropping her phone. She turned to see Helena standing behind her, arms crossed, her expression icy. "Nothing, Miss Simmons," Clara stammered, shoving her phone into her pocket. Helena's eyes narrowed. "I don't pay you to gossip. Get back to work." Clara nodded quickly and hurried away. By midday, the boutique was busier than usual. Customers browsed racks of couture and admired jewelry under sparkling lights. Helena had just finished helping a high-profile client when her phone buzzed. She frowned, pulling it out. The notification was from a news app. Former Vice President Kamala Harris denied entry to exclusive Beverly Hills boutique. Helena's stomach dropped. She opened the article, scanning the text quickly. The story was vague but damning. An unnamed boutique had reportedly turned Kamala Harris away, sparking online outrage. "What is this?" Helena muttered, her grip tightening on the phone. Nearby, Claire and Evan exchanged uneasy glances. By late afternoon, the news had spread like wildfire. Social media was ablaze with posts about the incident. "I can't believe they turned her away. Who does that?" "Kamala Harris is more elegant than anyone shopping there anyway." Another example of how exclusivity equals snobbery. Helena paced her office, her mind racing. How had this spiraled so quickly? She hadn't even known it was Kamala Harris. She considered calling the boutique's PR team, but what would she say? That she hadn't recognized one of the most well-known women in the country? It would make her look careless. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification. Public figures react to Kamala Harris' boutique incident. Helena's hands trembled slightly as she read the headline. The boutique's reputation, her reputation, was unraveling before her eyes. As the day wound down, Helena's desk phone rang. She picked it up, her voice clipped. "This is Helena Simmons." There was a pause, then a calm, familiar voice. "Hello, Miss Simmons. This is Kamala Harris." Helena's heart stopped. "I believe we met yesterday," Kamala continued, her tone measured but firm. "I'd like to return to your boutique tomorrow. I hope that won't be a problem." Helena swallowed hard. "Of course not, Miss Harris. We'd be honored to have you." "Good," Kamala said. "I'll see you tomorrow afternoon." The line went dead. Helena set the phone down slowly, her mind racing. Kamala Harris was coming back, and this time Helena knew there would be no room for mistakes. That evening, Helena sat in her apartment staring at her computer screen. She had spent hours reading comments online, each one cutting deeper than the last. How could they treat her like that? Shows how disconnected these places are from reality. Bet they're regretting it now. Helena closed the laptop, her chest tight. For the first time in years, she felt unsure of herself. She had built her career on maintaining the boutique's exclusivity, on knowing exactly who belonged and who didn't. But now, she wasn't so sure. Kamala Harris had walked into her store not as a politician or a public figure, but as a woman. And Helena had dismissed her without a second thought. The thought gnawed at her as she lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling. She had always prided herself on her judgment, her ability to read people. But had she been wrong? Tomorrow she would find out. The boutique was a flurry of activity the next morning. Helena arrived earlier than usual, her sharp heels echoing across the marble floor as she directed her staff. "Polish every display," she instructed Clara, her voice clipped. "Evan, double-check the inventory. I don't want anything out of place." Clara glanced nervously at Evan. Everyone knew why Helena was on edge. Kamala Harris was returning, and the entire team could feel the weight of the moment. Helena straightened a vase of orchids near the entrance. She didn't want to admit it, but her palms were clammy. At precisely 2 p.m., the front door chimed softly. Kamala Harris entered the boutique with a calm, commanding presence. She wore the same tailored navy blazer as before, but now it felt more intentional, almost like armor. Her pearl earrings caught the soft light, and her expression was serene. Behind her, a small team followed, a discreet security detail and a young woman with a notepad, likely her publicist. The boutique staff froze. Even the air seemed to change. Helena stepped forward, her heels clicking against the floor. She forced a polite smile. "Ms. Harris, welcome back to our boutique. It's an honor to have you here." Kamala met her gaze with a slight smile. "Thank you, Ms. Simmons. I appreciate you having me." Helena felt her carefully rehearsed composure falter under Kamala's calm scrutiny. As Kamala walked through the boutique, her eyes moved over the displays with genuine interest. She paused to admire a row of handbags, running her fingers lightly over the leather. "Beautiful craftsmanship," she remarked to Clara, who stood nearby looking nervous. Clara blinked, then managed a small smile. "Thank you, ma'am. These are from our newest collection." Kamala nodded. "You're very knowledgeable. How long have you worked here?" Clara hesitated. "About 6 months." "Well, you're doing a wonderful job," Kamala said warmly. Clara's cheeks flushed and she gave a grateful nod. Kamala continued to browse, her demeanor calm but deliberate. She seemed to linger near the junior staff, asking thoughtful questions and offering kind words. Helena followed at a distance, her unease growing. Finally, Kamala turned to her, holding a small clutch in her hand. "Tell me, Miss Simmons," she said, her tone measured. "What does this boutique represent to you?" Helena hesitated. The question felt loaded. "Exclusivity," she replied carefully. "We strive to provide a unique experience for our clients." Kamala's gaze didn't waver. "Exclusivity," she repeated. "And who decides who is worthy of that experience?" Helena swallowed. "We have certain standards, Ms. Harris. It's about maintaining a specific image." Kamala tilted her head slightly. "An image," she said thoughtfully. "And where does respect fit into that image?" Helena's throat tightened. Kamala handed the clutch to Clara. "I'll take this," she said with a smile. Clara nodded quickly, rushing to wrap the item. As Kamala approached the counter, she pulled out a checkbook. She wrote a number, tore the check, and handed it to Helena. "This is for your staff," she said simply. "Consider it a gesture of gratitude for their kindness." Helena glanced at the check, her eyes widening. The amount was substantial, enough to cover a generous bonus for every employee. "Ms. Harris," she began, her voice shaky, I don't know what to say." Kamala's expression softened. "There's nothing to say, Miss Simmons. Just remember, kindness costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable." With that, she turned and walked out, her team following quietly behind her. The boutique was silent after Kamala left. Clara and Evan exchanged stunned glances while Helena stood frozen, the check still in her hand. For the first time in years, Helena felt small. Her carefully constructed world of exclusivity and image suddenly seemed shallow, even hollow. She looked at her staff, who were watching her uncertainly. "Gather everyone," she said quietly. "We need to talk." The boutique's usual hum of activity was replaced by an awkward stillness as the staff gathered in the main showroom. Helena stood at the center, the check Kamala Harris had left still clutched in her hand. The team exchanged uncertain glances. Helena was rarely one to call meetings, and when she did, it was usually to deliver critiques, not reflections. Helena took a deep breath, smoothing the front of her tailored blazer. "I want to talk about what happened today and yesterday," she began, her voice unusually soft. Helena's eyes moved over her employees, each face a mix of curiosity and caution. She felt a pang of guilt. How many times had she dismissed their feelings, their input, because she believed she knew better? "When Kamala Harris walked into this boutique," Helena continued, "I didn't see a woman. I saw an outsider, someone who didn't fit the image I've worked so hard to maintain." Her voice faltered slightly, but she pressed on. "I made an assumption, one that was unfair, unkind, and deeply wrong, and I'm ashamed of it." Clara shifted, her expression softening. Helena held up the check. "Ms. Harris left this for all of you. She said it was a gesture of gratitude for your kindness. I can't help but think she was pointing out something I've forgotten along the way." Helena's grip tightened on the check as she continued. "When I started managing this boutique, I thought exclusivity was everything. I believed that keeping certain people out made this place special. But today, I realized how empty that idea is, without respect, without kindness." She turned to Claire and Evan, her voice softening. "You both saw what I couldn't. You recognized Ms. Harris not just for who she is, but for the dignity she carries, and I ignored you." Clara blinked, her cheeks turning pink. "It's okay, Ms. Simmons," she murmured. Helena shook her head. "No, it's not, but I want to make it right." Helena placed the check on the counter. "This belongs to all of you. I'll make sure it's divided fairly. Consider it a thank you, not just from Ms. Harris, but from me as well." The staff exchanged surprised glances. Evan's eyes widened. "You don't have to do that, Ms. Simmons." "I do," Helena insisted, "because you deserve it, and because this boutique wouldn't exist without your hard work." A murmur of gratitude rippled through the group. Helena straightened, her voice growing firmer. "But this can't just be about one incident or one check. Starting today, we're going to do things differently. I want this boutique to reflect not just luxury, but values, respect, dignity, and kindness. That means treating everyone who walks through those doors like they belong, because everyone deserves that, no matter who they are." Clara smiled, her nervousness replaced by warmth. "I think that's a great idea, Miss Simmons." Evan nodded. "Me too." Helena felt a small weight lift from her chest. She wasn't sure how the changes would unfold, but she knew they were necessary. As the staff dispersed, returning to their tasks with renewed energy, Helena lingered by the counter. She glanced at the vase of orchids, the soft lighting reflecting off the polished marble. For the first time in years, the boutique didn't feel like a fortress. It felt like a place of possibility. Helena smiled faintly. Kamala Harris had left more than a check. She had left a lesson, and Helena intended to honor it. Weeks passed, but the day Kamala Harris walked into the boutique remained fresh in everyone's mind. Her graceful presence, thoughtful words, and quiet lesson lingered, shaping the boutique's culture in ways Helena hadn't imagined. The boutique was still a hub of luxury, but something had shifted. The air was lighter, conversations warmer. Clara greeted a young woman browsing the handbag section. The customer wore a simple sundress and carried a worn tote. In the past, she might have been ignored. "Let me know if you need help," Clara said with a genuine smile. The woman hesitated. "I'm just looking. I probably can't afford anything here." Clara shook her head. "That's okay. Feel free to take your time. Some of our items are on sale today." The woman's face lit up, and she continued browsing. From across the room, Helena watched the exchange, a small smile playing on her lips. Helena's approach to management had changed as well. She had started holding weekly team meetings, not to critique, but to listen. At one such meeting, she addressed her staff, her tone uncharacteristically warm. "I want to thank all of you," she began. "You've shown me what it means to lead with empathy. This boutique is stronger because of you." Evan grinned. "Does this mean we can finally have a casual Friday?" The group chuckled, and Helena raised an eyebrow. "Let's not get carried away, but I'll consider it." Word about the boutique's transformation had spread, attracting a wider range of customers. Social media posts praised the warm, welcoming atmosphere, drawing in curious shoppers who had once felt intimidated by the store's exclusivity. One afternoon, an older man entered, his suit slightly wrinkled, his shoes scuffed. He hesitated at the entrance, scanning the room nervously. Helena approached him with a kind smile. "Welcome. How can we help you today?" The man relaxed, his shoulders dropping. "I'm looking for something special for my wife. It's our anniversary." Helena guided him toward the jewelry section, her tone friendly and unassuming. "Let's find the perfect piece." The changes didn't go unnoticed. Local news outlets ran follow-up stories, highlighting the boutique's commitment to inclusivity and respect. Helena was even invited to speak at a business forum where she shared her journey. "Luxury isn't about exclusivity," she told the audience. "It's about creating an experience that makes everyone feel valued." Her words were met with applause, and Helena felt a surge of pride, not for herself but for her team and the culture they had built together. One quiet afternoon, a handwritten note arrived at the boutique. Helena opened it, her heart skipping a beat when she recognized the elegant handwriting. "Dear Miss Simmons, I've heard about the changes you've made, and I want to commend you and your team. It's not easy to reflect and grow, but you've done so with grace. Thank you for taking my visit to heart. Best wishes for continued success. Warm regards, Kamala Harris." Helena read the note twice, a lump forming in her throat. She framed it and placed it in the staff room, a reminder of the moment that had changed everything. As the boutique closed for the night, Helena walked through the showroom, her heels clicking softly against the floor. The lights dimmed, casting a warm glow over the displays. She paused by the vase of orchids, adjusting a petal gently. The boutique wasn't just a place of luxury anymore. It was a place of connection, kindness, and possibility, a reflection of the lessons Helena and her team had learned. And in that quiet moment, Helena felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. I hope you liked this story. Turn on notifications for daily upcoming heartwarming stories like this.